You guys, I'm sorry. I'm late. I had to let Miss Flo do her thing and like she put me down. And so I just had to lay. I just had to lie through that.
I've heard like I think about my boycott.
I'm a little late, I know, but this is going to be out in enough time for you to watch this recap before season 3 comes out. And if you want to watch this after you watch episode 1, come save it, download it, do all the things, share it, do what you need to do. So if you watched season 1, episode 1 recap, I basically got everything except for one important part, which is like the final scene of season 1. And that was on the last episode, Fez robs a wealthy man, a man who had just been doing business with Mouse and Custer, the man who counts his money. Fez watches them leave. Fez goes inside. He starts to steal some jewelry. He starts to steal some money. He gets caught by the man. He holds him at gunpoint. He's like, open up that safe. Give me your money. The man starts to reach for something, possibly a gun. Fez starts beating him with the pistol. Little kid standing in the hallway sees it. Fez watches him see it, keeps beating him, gets what he needs to get, and walks out. He goes back home and he needs to pay Mouse now. Mouse is already waiting on the couch in the crib for him. Custer starts counting the money. Emotions are high. It's very tense. As we know, Mouse and Fez, their energy, it's, very masculine, battley. It's unsettling in there. And that is how Fez feels every single time he has to deal with Mouse. The same thing happens, except they find blood on the money. This is the end of season 1. Custer sees the blood, Mouse sees the blood, Fez sees the blood, and Fez goes, "We good." Boom, that's the end of season 1. Okay, now season 2, episode 1. So we see a car pull up with a license plate that says Kitty. It's a 2-door drop top, like a nice golden color that's a little bit sparkly. I don't know. My parents had a Chrysler this color when I was a child before they painted it like a midnight purple. Anyway, car pulls up, strip club. It's gangsters. It's money. It's stripping. It's poles. It's girls. It's weird, creepy men. Rue's voice starts over this scene, and we learn that this is baby Fezco, probably age 11. A woman emerges out of the car. Baby Fezco is accompanying her. Fez stays in the car. She goes into the strip club. She marches through the stripping and, the tables and the fun part to get to the back room. She sees a man sitting at a desk, probably the man who runs or owns or whatever, shoots him in both kneecaps. The girl that was doing her thing with him, screaming her head off. Lady marches off. She says, "You never have to worry about that man again." We learned that Fezco's grandma. Apparently, this man, don't know if it was dad, don't know if it was his stepdad, hit him, and she took baby Fez into her care. Fez had so much respect for his grandma. She taught him everything that he needed to know about business. And yes, we were talking drug business. A mathematician, he sure was. I don't even know how many pounds are in an ounce. Fez does. One day, a baby just gets dropped in their hallway. This is who we know as baby Fezco, or this is who we know as baby Ashtray. Fez does not ask too many questions about why there was a baby, where it came from, or anything like that. Fez just said, "This is my little brother. Now it's time to take care of him." Fez did his best to steer him in the right direction. This baby had to be 2 or 3 years old, very, very young. One day, Fez, his grandma, and the baby are all in the kitchen. The baby is in the bathtub, is in the sink taking a bath. There's an ashtray next to him. He reaches in, he grabs, he puts the cigarettes in the ash in his mouth. He starts crying. Boom. Ashtray was born. And then on one random day, when Fez is accompanying his grandmother, she gets one of those, tire pulls from when you're changing the tire. She rolls up on people who've done bad business with her, starts whacking them. Fez sees this going on. He feels something in his heart, probably empathy. He's very, very young. He goes up to his grandma to try to pull her off. As she's swinging back, she knocks him in the head. Boom. He's blacked. He doesn't remember months or weeks at a time. There are a lot of dark areas that happened. I mean, they weren't dark. They were just simply not present. His brain simply did not hold those moments as memories. And basically, yeah, he knew his grandma felt bad. However, she never apologized. Shortly after that, she got sick. She fell into the coma that she is in now, and Fez had to take over everything. Probably at age 13, 14, he was very, very, very young still. And he was caring for baby Ashtray all by himself. Boom, present day. We get back to where season one ended. Fez says, "We good?" Mouse does not look good. In fact, he kind of starts reaching for something. Ashtray starts creeping up the stairs. He does his parkour like bop, 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 three-point jump, smashes Mouse in the head with the hammer. He's out. Like out as an unalived. Custer is like, "Oh, whoa." He gets up. Ashtray smacks him in the nose. His whole nose just like crushed. Leaking out of him is blood. Fez says, "What the?" Because dead ass, what the? I mean, honestly, I think this was a moment where Ashtray probably did save him, but also, what the fuck? Ashtray don't be thinking. Boom, title screen, lyrics. That's why I fucked Joe, bitch, you fat mother. It's Tupac. Back to present day now. Rue is back on drugs. Of course, she is riding around with Fez and Ashtray. Now they have to handle business because this drug dealer Mouse had to go to another drug dealer to drop off money or do whatever they do in the business of running drugs. Rue just so happens to be with them, I assume. She's in the back, she's singing, she's dancing, she's having a good time. They're obviously on high alert because they just killed somebody who probably has ties to them, who probably has people that would kill them if they found out that they killed him. And they have to go meet Custer at this new destination. Okay. They get to the destination. They say, "Rue, sit your ass in the car and be quiet." Custer has his girlfriend, Faye. She gets into the car with Rue, and then Ashtray, Fez, and Custer go upstairs to who we learn to be Lori, the top tier drug dealer, a woman who's very monotone. She was a school teacher, and honestly, I don't think she says any bad words. She's like sweet seeming. I'll go with that, sweet seeming. But she has a brigade of really gnarly men who were on probation, who were smacking everybody around, roughing everybody up, scaring everybody. They start shooting up heroin. Literally, Rue is like, "I don't know if this is the time for you to be doing that." She's like, "You're a junkie who probably eats the ginger's ass for drugs, like oxys or whatever you're into." As she's shooting herself up in the thigh, somebody runs downstairs, puts her in a headlock, puts Rue in a headlock. Boom, they're upstairs. Now the drug dealers are mad because who are these girls in the car? Ask everybody except for obviously Ashtray, the very young man, to get naked. Rue says, "I'm 17, I'm a minor, I can't get naked either." The head honcho guy grabs her, throws her in the shower with her clothes on to make sure she doesn't have any wires. After all that mumbo jumbo happens and they hit Custer in the nose a few more times, Fess says, "Lori, can I please put some clothes on and talk to you?" She puts some clothes on. She talks to him. They get everything sorted. They're like, "We don't know where Mouse is." She sends them off with whatever they need to be sent off with next. They're in the car on the way to a New Year's party. Rue's like, "Oh my God, that was so cool. That was so cool." And Fez is like, "That was not fucking cool, girl. That was not a game. That is not a joke. That is a very serious matter." She's like, "Well, I just never see a woman who's a drug dealer. You know, I love that." And Fez is like, "Yeah, true. There's only like one real good one." And he was probably referring to his grandma. They get to the New Year's party. And the whole gang is there. Jules, Kat, Maddie. Jules, Kat, and Maddie all roll up together. Rue sees Jules roll up with them and she starts hiding in the kitchen because I don't know if you remember, they haven't seen each other since Jules left her on that train and went to the city. Lexi is calling Cassie nonstop because Cassie and Lexi were supposed to be at the same party, but we find out that Cassie jumped out of the car after they had a screaming match. She goes to a gas station, gets a honey bun. She's sitting on the side of the road. Nate walks up to her and he's like, "Oh my God, hey, what are you doing here, Cassie?" And she's just like, "Oh my God, I'm trying to get to the party, but like I'm just a little bit drunk. Me and my sister got in a fight, whoopty whoop." And he's like, "Oh, what happened to you and McKay?" And she's like, "We're at different places in life. We broke up. What happened to you and Maddie?" And no, obviously she knows what happened. That's her best friend. He's like, "Yeah, same thing with Maddie." And then he goes, "You're a relationship girl, right?" And she goes, "I'm trying not to be." And then he says, and she said, "No, no, 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 no. Like I'm trying to focus on myself." And he said, "Well, why would you do a silly thing like that?" They stare at each other. The wheels in her brain start turning because we know that this girl has like some sort of codependency issue. Like she had a lot of issues with her dad. She just can't be around a good looking man or most men right now. She really does need to focus on herself, but also she's in a very vulnerable space where being alone is probably very crippling to her. Anyway, they get in Nate's car, go to the party together. He's driving crazy. He's drinking and driving. It's like honestly scary and like not anything romantic, except she's giggling because I feel like that's the only way she really knows how to get herself out of an uncomfortable situation, to be honest. As a woman, that's something, as a girl, you just learn how to giggle and get out of shit. Flash back to the party. Maddie's like, I have to go to the bathroom. She runs, finds the bathroom, starts banging on the door. There's a beautiful shot. We see the other side of the door, and it's Nate and it's Maddie hooking up. She's banging on the door, banging on the door, banging on the door. And then Nate says, I'm trying to use the bathroom. And she goes, Nate? And Cassie goes, ugh. Ugh. It's like, that was such peak. That was literally such peak. That was so good. And then they start trying to figure out what to do so that they can get out of this situation. The window is too small. Cassie can't get out. They end up putting Cassie in the bathtub, closing the shower curtain. He comes out of the bathroom. He's like, Maddie, will you come talk to me? She's like, no, I have to pee. Get out of my way. He leaves, goes down the hall. During all of that mumbo jumbo, there's a man trying to talk to Maddie in the hallway. She's kind of like not really buying into it. She goes to the bathroom. She pees, wipes herself with a towel, throws it into the tub on top of Cassie's face, tries to leave, and the guy goes, do you want to smoke? So they go back inside of the bathroom. At this point, Lexi's calling her, calling her, calling her. Luckily for her, she doesn't have service. Eventually, somehow the guy goes, oh, they hear a vibration. The guy goes to check the bathtub. He goes, oh my God, there's a girl passed out in the bathtub. Come look, Maddie. And Maddie's like, no, I want to go dance. And then they go dance. Another guy comes inside. He really starts taking a shit. She leaves. At this time, while she's in the bathroom, McKay actually gets to the party. He's looking for Cassie. And Nate is just talking to him, honestly, being a little bit of a weirdo. Cassie gets out of the bathroom, and then everybody's there waiting for her. Maddie runs up, gives her a hug. Lexi's like, where have you been? I've been calling you. McKay's like, I need to talk to you. And her and Nate are stealing like weird glances because obviously they feel very weird around each other because they just hooked up with each other. And both of their long-term loving exes are like in their faces all at the same time. Cassie goes to talk to McKay in the bedroom. He's like, why can't this work? Why can't this work? I want you. I want you. She's just like, I don't think I'm a good person. And then he's like, you're not a good person. Get away from me. He literally leaves. And then Nate runs into him and he's like, did you fuck Cassie? You're telling me you didn't fuck her? Bro, you didn't fuck her. Roughing him up, being such a weirdo. And McKay's like, this man is weird. He's probably like, why was I ever friends with this fucking weirdo? And yeah, I want to know too. Rue gets to the car. She's laying down because she does not want to face Jules, and she sees Faye's heroin on the ground, and she's just like, well, there's nothing else to do. So I guess she tries a bit of heroin, goes back to the party, peeking around the basement, runs into Elliot, who's snorting something in the basement, and she goes, what are you doing? And then he goes, nothing. And she's like, I'll tell you what kind of drugs I'm on if you tell me what kind of drugs you're on. And then he's like, okay. And then they do drugs. And then she starts to go into cardiac arrest. And then he has to crush up Adderall so she can snort it up and not go into cardiac arrest anymore. She goes back to the party. She's chilling. She's smoking weed. Jules sees her. And Jules goes, Rue? And she goes, hey. And then Elliot goes, I'm going to go get a drink. You can have my seat. And Jules says, when did you relapse? Rue says, it's just weed, Jules. Jules said, okay, but when did you relapse? And then Rue says, do you want me to be honest? Jules already knows the answer. But she says, yeah. Rue says, the night you left. Jules gets so sad. She starts bawling. She storms away. Maddie comes out of the bathroom with the guy. They start dancing. Fez sees Lexi at the party. He's like, aren't you Rue's friend? And she's like, yeah. And then they start talking. And it's like very cute and it's very wholesome. They're sitting like far away from each other on the couch, and then they get closer and they get closer and then they get closer, and then it starts to get like a tiny bit flirty, stays very wholesome. Also, Kat is in a loving relationship with Ethan. They're so fun and they're having fun and they're kissing, and then but Kat is hanging out with her friends, and but her storyline is basically all about Ethan and being with Ethan right now. Rue runs up to Jules. She says, I'm so sorry. That was so mean. I've never told you this before, but I really want to be with you. Jules smiles. Rue says, can you answer me? Jules does not answer her, but just gives her a kiss, a long kiss. They start kissing. Fez goes up to Nate and he's like, how are you doing? Nate's like, good. How are you doing? He's like, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Fez says, do you have any New Year's resolutions? And Nate says, No, how about you? And then he says a few. And then Nate goes, didn't you say you were going to kill me not too long ago? Then Fez takes the Tito's bottle, smashes it over Nate's head, starts beating that man to a pulp like what Nate did to Tyler. Maddie's trying to pull him off. Cassie's trying to pull him off. He can't be pulled off. McKay comes out of nowhere, pulls him off. And then I guess the guy whose party it was pulls him off. At this point, Nate is unconscious. He's going in and out of consciousness. He's very bloody. He looks like if a couple more hits would have gotten in, that man would have slipped into a coma, which I actually think he was in a little bit of a coma. But he beat that man bad. They end up picking him up. Maddie, Cassie, McKay, and the other guy, maybe Kat. I don't know. If 4 people pick every limb of Nate's up, put him in the car, and proceed to take him to the hospital. And Rue said, damn. Okay, season 2, episode 2. Nate is laying on the ground bloody, and he realizes he is in love with Cassie. One hookup, and he realized that she's everything that he's ever wanted because she's everything the opposite of Maddie, because she will be the submissive type he's looking forward to. Nate is in the hospital. He is imagining himself a full life with Cassie. She's pregnant. She's kissing him. They're loving on each other. They're having sex in a bed of flowers, just all of the things. And then Nate's dad starts holding his hand. And then he starts imagining while he's in the hospital. And then he starts imagining his dad being in the picture with his pregnant wife. His dad starts praying over him. And then when his dad says, amen, Nate literally starts having a seizure. Boom, title screen. Flash forward, we are at school with Jules and Rue, and they're kissing and loving all over each other until Elliot walks up, and there's obviously a weird little dynamic and tension. Rue starts acting weird, and she goes, oh, Elliot, this is Jules, my girlfriend. And then he said, I didn't know you were in a relationship. And then Rue says, oh, yeah. Turns out Rue and Elliot have been getting high with each other for the past 3 days nonstop. Jules feels like Elliot has a thing for Rue, and she's starting to get a little jealous. She storms off to the bathroom, and she's like about to start crying. And that's where we see Cassie in the bathroom, who has been depressed ever since she did what she did with Nate. She's talking to Nate. She's like, this was so bad. I can't believe that we did this. Maddie's my best friend. Whoop-de, 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 whoop. And then eventually it gets to a point where he's like, you aren't that good of friends with Maddie, because if you were, why would you do that? I don't like Nate Jacobs, but in this moment, Nate is like also still kind of picturing his life with Maddie. And Maddie's like, they are broken up. Maddie does feel very bad that he's in the hospital, and she's kind of trying to rekindle things because like he's in a vulnerable place, and she's just like, oh, I love him. I want to be with him. I love him. We learn that she has a new job babysitting a kid named Theo who comes from a wealthy family, and she loves Theo's mom's wardrobe. She's honestly living her best life. It seems like she has some good influence with this new dynamic and these new people in her life. And then now Kat is starting to feel like her relationship is vanilla. Nate is released from the hospital. He's trying to calm Cassie down simultaneously while she is freaking out about Maddie. Fez's actions cause Cal to interrogate everyone in their grade because Nate won't say anything about what's happened. He won't tell his dad who. He's just trying to live his life. Cal starts running around to everybody in the grade. Nobody's coughing anything up until Cassie finally does. Maybe it's her guilty conscience. Maybe she doesn't want something worse to happen. It could be a lot of things. I do think that Cassie battles between being sweet and also just not thinking. Nate could have just told his dad with his own mouth. She didn't have to do that. Lexi gets upset because Cassie snitched, not knowing why, and also knowing that Nate is just not a good person. Like, there could have been any reason why he got beat up in the way that he got beat up. And he could have also told, and he didn't. Flash over to Fez. Custer calls Fez to take in his girlfriend, Faye, because Faye killed the motel manager. And the cops were looking for them, but he loves Faye so much. So he's like, can you take her in? So they're like, you know what, fine, we called your boss. You're being quiet about it. We'll take Faye in. And Lexi's lack of action in her real life makes her feel like she wants to do something more. And so she starts to come up with an idea of like, how can I put everything going on to my life into something creative? And she's thinking along the lines of a play. Now Kat is in her room. She's very bored. She is feeling down and out about herself. I guess because she can't conceptualize why she would be having these types of feelings if she got everything that she wanted in a relationship. She starts to have a mild crash out, and then these Instagram models start popping up in her bedroom, telling her that she's amazing, giving her all these affirmations. And she's like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And they're like, yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are. And they start telling her about the things that are wrong with them. Whoop de whoop. She's just having a mini mild crash out. And it's very unclear if this is like internal or if this is like internal feelings or this is like her internet community talking to her, because I feel like there have been moments before where we see her engaging with her internet community but in real life. So that was a little bit unclear to me. Rue's on her bike. She does see Cassie getting into Nate's car. Inside of that car, Maddie calls them both. They're not answering. Rue is leaving Elliot's to go to AA, and Ollie is on her ass because he knows that something is up with her. While we flash back to Nate and Cassie in the car, and Nate is taking her to this deserted, like, location spot his dad is newly building stuff to break up with her. He literally takes her into the middle of nowhere to break up with her. She gets out of the car, runs away. He chases her. They hook up. They not broken up. So Lexi is like finding all these things out about herself. She's really, really feeling herself. And she finds herself in Fez's gas station because she really liked her conversation with him. She wants a little bit more from him. And she gets there and she's like, oh my God, I'm looking for a drink. He's like, oh my God, we have plenty. Like, how can I help you? Faye comes out of nowhere. And Lexi's like, oh, are you guys like, and he's like, no, 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 that's my friend. Honestly, he didn't make that as clear as he could have. But also, it is kind of weird being like, I want to talk to you. Is this your girlfriend? But like honestly, you should just do it because if it is the girlfriend, it's good to know. It's good information to have. While that awkward interaction is happening, Cal walks into the gas station. He's basically he's not really threatening Fesco, but he's kind of just trying to, I guess, show Fesco that he is a present father and he loves his son and he doesn't want his son to be hurt. And then Cal goes home and he's like, why didn't you tell me that a low grade drug dealer is trying to beat you the essentially? And he goes, well, Dad, let me close the door. Maybe it's because he, Jules, and Rue know about what you did to Jules and they're threatening to go to the police station. And maybe, just maybe, I was trying to protect you, which is a lie. Nate is trying to control the situation by controlling every aspect of what people know. His dad asks Nate for the tape, and Nate doesn't respond. Episode 3, here we get the backstory on Cal's first gay experience. He was also a jock, and this happened with a friend of his, but it was a very, very, very slow burn. His friend had a girlfriend, he had a girlfriend. He was getting into it with the girlfriend. He was really loving the girlfriend. And then the friend takes him to a gay bar and then he starts to kiss him and just try to experience him a little bit more, which Cal is really into that. And the next day, his girlfriend, Marcia, who is Nate's mom, calls and says that she's pregnant. And I'm assuming he just falls into the heterosexual, I'm a dad, boom. There's no backstory as to when like Cal rebooted, his exploration, but that was it. Flash forward to present day. Rue has not only relapsed, but she is caught by Gia like dancing around the kitchen on drugs. Gia goes, "Are you high?" And she goes, "I'm doing a little bit of weed." Gia's like, "This is not a good idea." She's like, "Oh my God, if you want to tell mom, tell mom." She starts gaslighting Gia essentially because there needs to be a fallback drug. Because if you're on drugs, obviously people are going to find out. Her that's her philosophy, that's her theory, that's her thing. But she basically gaslights Gia into not telling her mom if it is only weed. And she says it is only weed. And then she obviously goes right to Elliot's house. This time she brings Jules. They're all hanging out together and then they start to play truth or dare. But this is like very lighthearted. This is like very, funny. And around school, while at school, Lexi finds Vice Principal Garcia and says that she wants to put on a play, to which he says, okay. Her situation with seeing what happened with Bez and Cal in the gas station made her realize that her superpower is an observer. She knows a lot and she has a lot of stories to tell because of that. But her sister, on the other hand, is feeling very out of control. She's waking up at 5 a.m. She's doing all this crazy skincare and doing all of these things to get Nate's attention because Nate is a sociopath. Like, I'm sure he actually wants this to happen to see that she likes him enough for him to divulge into it, or he's doing this thing to control her emotions just to get her hooked or whatever. So he's barely showing her any attention. She's changing the way she's dressing. She's dressing like Maddie. She's being weird to Maddie. At this time, Cassie and Maddie are obviously talking as friends. Maddie's saying that she wants to get back together with Nate. Cassie's like, that's not really a good idea. It hasn't really ended too well in the past. She's just like, yeah, I mean, I guess so. But next, we see Kat meeting Ethan's parents. And here she's being so awkward. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know how to give right answers about her relationship with their son. She's just feeling out of it. And she's also feeling, maybe she's feeling not worthy of a healthy relationship, but they're just not depicting it in that way. At this point, Rue decides to go back to Lori's house, the drug dealer from episode 1, because she wants to make money. She wants to sell drugs. Elliot sells music online. He makes a lot of money. That's how he's funding their addiction. And she's maybe getting inspired, but she wants to get into this in the drug sort of way. So she goes to Lori. Lori says, are you an addict? She says, no. Lori says, okay, I'll give you a $50,000 suitcase. You need to pay up in a month. Rue says, wait, can I do less? And she goes, sure, let me give you a $10,000 suitcase. You pay up in a month. If you don't pay me back, I will basically have you kidnapped and sold, because one thing about me, I'm going to make my money back, baby. Obviously, that'll shake anybody up. Rue gets a little shaken up. But then she takes it anyway, and she decides to take the suitcase to her AA meeting. Ollie is like, what's in the suitcase? What's going on? She's not answering any questions. And he starts digging into her life a little bit more. And she essentially calls him a deadbeat dad and a wife beater. And he is really upset. He is really hurt by that. He says, you know what? You're not about to disrespect me. I'm not talking to you anymore. Leaves her life. Lexi holds auditions for the play. She's getting things in action. She's getting things moving because she knows exactly what she wants to talk about. And then boom, flash over to her kind of man, Fez's house, where we see Cal sitting inside of their living room, tied up, and ashtrays pointing a gun at him because he was lurking outside of their apartment because he thinks that they know secrets about him. Fez is like, what the fuck are you doing outside of my place? He's like, listen, I know that you guys know that I hooked up with Jules, but I didn't know she was underage. Boom. Fez finds out that Jules and Cal had sex. And again, like everybody else, he says, your family's weird as ew. Nate drives to Maddie's sitter location. He brings her flowers. They talk a bunch. They realize that, they're getting very mature in their toxic cycle. I think they're not really getting back together because they can kind of see now for real that nothing good comes out of this. And boom, next episode, baby. Rue is so in love with Jules. She's so in love with Jules, and she's so in love with drugs. And she cannot feel Jules because she's so numb off the mother drug, y'all. She fakes an orgasm. Jules realizes, she calls her out on that. And later, Jules and Elliot are hanging out because Rue had to go, and they start talking about libido, and they start talking about sexual things, and then they start just having sex. Boom, title screen. You see Cassie celebrating Maddie's birthday with her, but also crying to Nate about what they're doing behind her back. She's really battling a lot of feelings and emotions right now, and so much so that her mom is like, I don't think she's single. And then she's hanging out with Maddie, and then she's talking to Nate, and then she's hanging out with Maddie, and then she's crying at her house, and then boom. She is at Nate's house post hookup, and she's talking about, their situation even more. He's like, girl, we literally just hooked up. Like, you don't feel that bad. Like, stop. She's like, you couldn't possibly understand how I'm feeling. He's like, no, I couldn't. But also, I knew that if I didn't want to do something like this, I wouldn't continue to do it. They get into a big fight. He starts comparing her to Maddie. She starts getting upset about that. He actually calls her Maddie. They're screaming. And then she leaves the house. He goes, don't leave, I love you. And she leaves anyway. And that was the strongest thing Cassie has done all show, to be honest. Next, we start to see Lexi's audition for her play called Our Life. And we start to see how reflective it is with her actual life through conversations she's had with her sister and little things like that. Okay, jump back to our favorite throuple, if you will, Elliot, Jules, and Rue hanging out. Rue says, I'm going to go to the bathroom. She goes to the bathroom. Elliot and Jules start kissing behind her back. She comes out of the bathroom. Elliot says, you know what? I'm going to go in the bathroom. Rue has chopped something up and left a line for Elliot to snort, except he doesn't snort it. He blows it away. He comes back out. And then when he walks through the door threshold, Rue kisses him. And Jules says, that wasn't 10 seconds long. And then they actually do share a 10-second kiss. And now it's getting into a little bit of like swinging action, except Rue doesn't know that she's a part of that. She doesn't know that her two closest friends have just hooked up and they are hooking up and they actively are interested in each other that way. Maybe because she's really high and, like she is numb. We jump over to Cassie's house where they're celebrating Maddie's birthday. They're having a little party there. They put some water in the inflatable pool. It's Cassie, Maddie, Lexi, Kat, and Nate is supposed to show up, but it's unclear when Nate shows up, if it's to make Cassie jealous or if it's to be there for Maddie or if it's genuinely both at the same time. Either way, Cassie is being a freakazoid the whole night. She's looking at them from afar. She's trying to show herself off. She's just doing too much. Maddie's letting it roll off of her shoulder. Nate is picking up on everything that she's putting down. They're all in the pool together. Cassie goes, "Are you guys going to get back together?" And then Nate says no. And Maddie said, "Okay, well, why did you say no like that? I was going to say no." And then they start talking about how there were moments of them getting back together. And then Cassie starts throwing up in the pool because she's drank so much to escape this situation that she also wants to be very much so a part of. And also, I'm sure she feels, pretty uncomfortable. Now, we see what Nate's dad, Cal, is up to after he's been beaten to a pulp with the gun via ashtray, just leaking out of his head. He's so wrapped up. He's been bleeding. He's been drinking. He pulls out his old Jeep. He goes back to the gay bar that his friend basically showed him that he has something that he can explore with himself. Really drunk and he's doing too much. He gets kicked out of there. He drunk drives home. He basically outs himself. Um, he says that he hates all of them. He pees on the floor. He gets his stuff and he's like, "I'm done with this. I'm done with you guys. I'm out of here. Bye." After Elliot and Jules steal some beer, they're in the car together. Rue gets upset about something. She storms home. Jules and Elliot continue to hang out. They hook up again. And Elliot tells Jules that Rue is not clean. She has not been clean. He has been doing drugs with her. And Rue goes back home. She snorts something. She's very, very high. She's dancing in her room, but she's actually dancing with her dad. And she's actually dancing with Labyrinth in a church. She's apologizing to her dad for all the things that she's done. And he's like, "It's okay. I love you so much." And she's just very high in her room, dancing alone, while her friends are talking about her and having sex. Season 2, episode 5, Stand Still Like a Hummingbird. This is peak Euphoria. This is what people think that Zendaya got her Emmy because of the acting in this episode. This episode was so well thought out. This is one of the best episodes. This is the best episode on Euphoria. Rue is woken up by her mother, who is saying, "I love you. I know you relapsed. Let's get you taken care of. I know, I know, I know. Let's get you into the car. Let's get you to the hospital. Like, let's get you taken care of." She's like, "Gia, you told mom that I'm smoking weed." Gia's like, "I didn't say anything." And then her mom was like, "Gia, you knew she was smoking weed." And she was like, "I didn't want to say anything." And she's like, "Rue, get in the car, get your things. We're going to the hospital. I know what's going on." And she's like, "You're making this up, mom. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You don't know anything." And then her mom was like, "No, but I do know. And I found things." And then she's like, "The suitcase. Where's the suitcase? Where's the suitcase?" Her mom is like, "I'm not telling you where the suitcase is. You need to go to the hospital right now." And then um she's like, "No." She starts crashing out. Her mom basically pushes her out of the room that her mom and Gia are in, locks the door. Rue beats the door down, like beats the door completely down so she can get herself back in. She starts screaming in their faces, and then immediately she's feeling regret for what she's done. She's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, mom. I need that suitcase. I'm so sorry. I'll go to the hospital, whatever you want. I'm so sorry, but I do need you to give me that suitcase back." And her mom is like, "No, I can't give you the suitcase back." And she's like, starts getting mad again. And she's like, "Why?" And then from the living room, Jules says, "We flushed your drugs." This re-triggers something in Rue. She goes out into the living room to see Elliot and Jules listening to all of this and waiting for her. She is calling Jules every fucking name in the book. She's going in on Jules as if she never loved that woman. And then with Elliot, she's upset. She does hit him up in the face a little bit. She does call him a lot of names too. She calls him a junkie. She calls him all the things too. And after freaking out on them, she gets in the car with her mom and Gia. They start driving to the hospital, and then she says, I can't do this. She jumps out of the car in the middle of the road during oncoming traffic, starts running the opposite direction, runs away from everybody. Boom, title screen. Immediately, we start to see that Rue is going through some withdrawal symptoms. Oh, also, when she jumped out of the car, it was daytime. Now it's night. Now it is nighttime. And she is going through it. She's hurting, she's sweating, and she finds herself at Lexi's house. Lexi opens up the door. She's like, Rue, what is wrong with you? You look awful. She's like, I feel really bad. Can I please go to your bathroom? Lexi says, okay. And then Maddie, Kat, and Cassie emerge. They're like, oh my God, Rue, you're here. Hey. And then Suze comes downstairs and she's like, oh my God, Rue, you look awful. What's going on with you? She's just like, oh my God, I'm just like not feeling really well. Can I go to your bathroom? She's like, yeah, please go to the bathroom. Goes to the bathroom, goes into her mom's bathroom, is looking for drugs, does not find the drugs, steals a pair of earrings, goes back to the staircase and finds her mother waiting for her. She's like, oh, mother. Her mom is like, this is, this can't feel good. You're lying to the people you love. I know that this is probably very embarrassing. Please get in the car. Let me take you to the hospital. She's like, Mom, I can't stay clean. I can't stay clean. I don't want to stay clean. I don't want to go to the hospital with you. And then Cassie opens her mouth and she's just like, you don't have to stay clean forever. You just need to take it one day at a time. And then she goes, Cassie, how long have you been Jacobs? And then Cassie goes, I don't even know what you're talking about. And she goes, yeah, you do, because I saw you getting into his car a month ago. Maddie hears this. Alarms go off in Maddie's head. Cassie starts running upstairs. Maddie starts running behind her. Kat starts running behind her. And while all of this commotion is happening, Rue is able to slip out of the door, out of the house, and keep running away. She finds herself in this neighborhood, a very nice neighborhood. A couple is leaving to go on a date night. She rolls under the little garage as it's closing, goes into the house, starts stealing their jewelry, starts finding some cash sitting around. And then all of a sudden, the garage goes back up. The couple forgot something. The wife is a little bit upset. Rue hides under the bed. The dog is like being friendly with her. So the dog is kind of hinting that like there is a presence in this house that I'm really enjoying. That's so creepy. But it's true. The wife immediately clocks like, yo, some of my things are missing. The husband goes under the bed to go to the safe to get the gun or something, I assume. He sees Rue there. She breaks out. She's running down the street. At this point, she's looking awful. So bad that the cops roll by her, just doing their nightly patrol, and they say, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I'm fine. And they're like, are you sure? And she's like, no, yeah, I'm great. And they're like, okay, you really don't look that good. She starts projectile vomiting. They get out to come check on her. She starts running. They're like, what the fuck is going on? They start chasing her. And this becomes like a wild goose chase. They're jumping around. They're in people's backyards. They're everywhere. Like they're going blocks and blocks and blocks away until she finally breaks free from that. She finds herself at Lori's house. She's like, I had nowhere else to go. Lori learns that she is a drug addict. Lori also, in this moment, I think is starting to realize that she can get over on Rue more than she thought that she'd be able to. She's like, this isn't good. Like, you can't be a drug addict around all these drugs, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've been there before. Like, you don't want to be like this. You don't want to do this. And then Rue was like, I just need some pain medication. Like, will you please, 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 please help me? And she's like, I only have IV and I know you don't fix. But then eventually, she gets Rue in the bathtub. Rue is trembling and she's like, are you sure you don't want anything? And like, Rue is like, you know what? I'll just take whatever you have. So this girl is poking and prodding to find her vein, eventually gets it in there, shoots her up with morphine. And then it's the next day. Rue wakes up in clothes that are new, not her clothes, in a bed, and she's locked, deadbolted inside of this house with all of them. She's trying to break out. The only way that she can get out is by going through the bathroom window in Lori's room, who's also sleeping with the headest of honcho guys, the scary one from episode 1. Rue manages to break out and she finds her way home. And her mom says, Rue, is that you? And lo and behold, and it is Rue. Season 2, episode 6. The episode starts with Rue trying to open a Jolly Rancher pack. Or not a pack, trying to open a Jolly Rancher, but she's really, really, really struggling. She doesn't have really good motor skills. She's snotting. She's crying. Her mom sees her going through this. She tries to give her some water, and she's just like really going through it. For the first 8 minutes, it's just like days and days and days of her going through withdrawals, running to the bathroom, cramping on the floor, sweating in the bed, like just being completely uncomfortable in her own body. But Gia and her mom are there for her, and they're really, really helping her as much as they can be. And this is when Rue is getting a little bit better, better enough to start her apology tour. And she starts with none other than Ollie. She calls him and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he said, "What do you want, Rue?" She breaks down, she cries. She's like, "I don't remember the extent of everything that I said, but I am so, so, so sorry. I didn't mean to say those things to you. You did not deserve that. You've been nothing but good to me. Like, can you please forgive me?" And he's like, "Yeah. In this life, we are meant to forgive graciously." And she finally lets herself have the Jolly Rancher that she was struggling to open. After that, Ollie comes over to cook dinner for her and the family. He sends Rue and her mother away because he's like, "Y'all have been wiping up your shit a lot. Like, this is a health hazard." So he starts to connect with Gia at this time and see how she feels, because it's very easy to understand that the sibling can kind of slip between the cracks when there's something big going on with the other sibling and they only have one parent to tend to them. So he's basically just trying to say that your feelings are valid. Everything that you're going through, like, it's not okay, but it everything that you feel is important, essentially. Next, we flash to Kat, who is at a restaurant with Ethan, and she is trying to break up with him. She tells him that she has a terminal brain condition. He immediately says, "You were lying." And she's like, "Oh, now I'm lying." She starts gaslighting him into him breaking up with her. But at that point, he's like, "I don't even want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me like this, because why are you acting like this? This is so weird and uncomfortable, and this is so not you." They end up breaking up. Kat does feel bad about herself, but then she got what she wanted, so maybe she doesn't feel as bad, but I don't know, they just didn't explore that very much. Jump to Lexi. She's now at Fez's house. They're talking about the play. They're talking about her fears. They're watching Stand By Me together. And he's like really, really being there for her at this time. And it's like so beautiful to see this relationship evolve and grow. But back at home, Cassie is spazzing because Nate won't talk to her. She can't talk to Maddie. And her mom and her sister are not like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. What you did wasn't wrong," because what she did was wrong. She doesn't want to take accountability for it. And her family is not gonna her family's holding her accountable, and she's really feeling like she's in this world alone. But to be honest, the thing was, she needed to be alone anyway. Back at Nate's house, he and his mother are having a drink. His mother seems very happy and carefree, and she's talking about how Cal is being gone, and she knew things were going on, but she didn't know to the extent of what was happening. And she's just feeling light and free and happy that she's single. Nate is feeling light and free and happy because he doesn't like his dad. And then his mom brings up that a dark cloud kind of grazed over him whenever he was like 8 or 9, but it was actually when he was 11 when he found the tapes. And Nate is like, "What are you alluding to?" And he starts getting kind of mean and kind of aggressive. And I feel like she might be like a little bit scared. Like, I feel like there might be a little bit of fear because like Nate's brother's not going to do anything. And Cal would have protected her from Nate, but he's not around anymore. Maddie is back babysitting at Theo's, and she is in the closet. The garage starts to go up. She's wearing all of his mom's clothes, and she quickly starts to take them off, put them away, and then they get in the pool together and they start talking. Maddie starts to explain the situation with Cassie, and Theo's mom starts explaining how she was in a very similar situation, but she was the Cassie. She kind of gave Maddie a new perspective on like what Cassie could be going through. And then Maddie goes, "Okay, well, that makes sense. Like, were you guys friends after?" And the mom goes, "No, that girl never talked to me again." That lady never talked to me again. And I get that too, because sometimes like we were in people's life to teach them a lesson, but when the lesson gets that big, it's like, okay, course completed, I've graduated. Maddie has had her perspective shifting conversation. She gets back home and she finds Nate has broken into her bedroom and is waiting for her with a gun. He's like, "Where's the tape? Where's the tape?" She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about." He pulls the gun on her, makes her lay down on the bed, lays on top of her, puts the gun from her head to his head, and starts playing Russian roulette until she tells him where the tape is. And she tells him where the tape is, and he's like, "Oh my God, did I scare you? There are no bullets in it. I'm so sorry, Maddie. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And that was his final act of love to her, if you will. He knew that he could never play in her face or even speak to her again. And so he just decided to never do that ever again. He left her alone. He left her alone, and he left her house to pick up Cassie and essentially move Cassie in because Cassie felt so disconnected from her home. Boom, Cassie is no longer being able to evolve alone again. Back at Fez's, it's nighttime. Lexi's gone home, and Custer is lurking in the alleys when he sees Faye throwing away trash can and says, "Faye, come over here." And then he's saying that he's cooperating with the feds to bring down Fez and Ashtray. Faye thinks that this is dumb, but obviously she's like a murderer right now, so she doesn't really have a lot of credibility to be like, "Don't do that, do this, don't do that." Okay, back at Rue's house, they're all having dinner together. Ollie goes home. Gia and Rue have a tiny moment of connection. They fall asleep together, and then we hear Rue's mom begging for her to get treatment on the other line. Episode 7, you guys. Now we are finally seeing Lexi's play come to fruition. It starts with Lexi at Rue's dad's funeral, feeling the emotions of that funeral. Rue runs to her room after she gives a speech at the funeral. Lexi follows her. Lexi sees Rue snorting something, and that's when she realizes just how bad her addiction has gotten. She knew that she probably mumbo-jumboed around a little bit with the drugs, but now she's seeing just how deep it got. Like, it's not a little bit of weed, like she's snorting shit. She's snorting prescription drugs now. The play introduces Maddie, Lexi, Rue, Kat, and Cassie, and we learn that the play is about their lives. And the play is also called Our Life. However, she changed all of their names. I don't remember the names that she changed them to. So whenever someone is referred to in the play, just know I'm just saying their real names. Okay. This episode jumps a lot from the actual play to the materialization of the play, and Fez is in a lot of that conversation. You know, her and Fez are texting throughout this episode, and she's like, "I'm saving you the best seat in the house." And like Faye is steaming his clothes, and he's putting on a suit, and he got her a bouquet of roses, and like this would have been a very beautiful and pure and wholesome moment if it would have went according to plan, of course. Now the play jumps to Lexi feeling like she's always been unseen because her sister is so seen and so beautiful and so popular. And she's just like, only 433 more days until I hit puberty. And she's really comparing her life to her sister's. She's doing it in a comical way, but she's also, you could tell that those things really do bother and affect her development. From there, the play goes into Rue losing her dad to cancer, Lexi and Cassie losing their dad to drugs, and Lexi losing her sister to boys and Rue to drugs at the same time. We're really seeing things from Lexi's perspective fully, truly, for the first time ever. Okay, now we go back to Fez's house. Faye is helping him get ready, and then Custer comes over and says that they need to talk. Custer is being very weird. He's sitting on the couch as Fez gets ready. Ashtray's like kind of around, kind of not around. He's looking at him through the cameras, but he knows that something is up. And Faye also doesn't feel very good about what's about to happen because she's really connected with these people and they've really come through for her in a time of need. So she's trying to figure out how to basically alert them without alerting Custer too, because Custer is taping and she knows that. Next, the play starts going to Maddie and Cassie's friendship and how Cassie, Lexi, and her mom really showed up for Maddie when she couldn't sleep at home some nights, when she needed a friend, when she needed a family, when she needed a meal. Like there were several weeks where Maddie was staying with them, and it just showed like how powerful that friendship really was and how much Cassie loved her and how much Maddie could depend on her and loved her too. And that caused Cassie to get up, go to the bathroom, and cry because of everything that she no longer had. This is the moment that we find out that Cassie just locked herself in the bathroom when Maddie went upstairs to confront her with Kat. Maddie was like, "I would never do this to something. I would never do this to you. Like, I can't believe you did this to me. Like, I thought you were my best friend." And Cassie's just crying, 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 not listening, not responding. And they finally end up leaving. And they have not spoken since because what is there to say? And then there's also a moment of us seeing Nate hooking up with Cassie, but envisioning Cassie is Jules, but then envisioning like Jules and his dad, and then envisioning his dad and him. And then finally, we get to the big dance number where the jocks are all in the gym, but they're all basically fornicating together, seducing each other. And everybody's laughing, everybody's carrying on. Nate gets upset. He gets so uncomfortable. He storms out of the theater. Cassie follows him. And then he's like, Cassie, this is your sister. How could you let her say these things? And she's like, I didn't know. I didn't know this was all in the play. I didn't even know what the play was about. And he was just like, get out of my house. I never want to see you again. This is over. Cassie is now finally fuming. She's fuming. She has crazy eyes. Boom, season 2, episode 8. The finale. So Fez is in his suit. He has flowers. He's about to head out. And Custer says, Where are you going? I really have to talk to you about something. Ash comes upstairs. He sits on the couch. He has a knife in his sleeve. And Custer starts talking about Mouse's death. No one's really responding. Faye drops her glass, breaks it. She's like standing on the counter side next to Fez. She bends down to pick up the glass. She says, shh, very softly. So Fez knows to be quiet. And then he's like, Did you hear me? The feds are coming. Did you hear me? Like, just trying to get him to say that he did it. And he's not really having any response. Faye starts going, Didn't you tell me that Lori did this? Why are you trying to protect Lori? Protect. Ashtray gets triggered, runs up to Custer, stabs him in the neck. Mind you, all of this is being recorded. Fez runs up to Custer, covers his mouth so they can't hear him, puts his phone into a big thing of soda. And then at this point, they're realizing the cops are going to be here at any moment. Fez is like, I'm going to go down for the murder. Ashtray, you need to literally get the fuck out of here. You're too young. Ashtray says, no, 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 no. He locks himself in the bathroom with guns. Boom, their front door gets bust down. SWAT team comes in. They're like, everybody get down, everybody get down. Fez holds his hands up. He's like, I'm not doing anything. Like, listen, there's a kid in here. Please do not shoot. Please do not shoot. Please do not shoot. They're like, okay, drop your gun. He drops the gun. He backs up. He has his hands above his head. Ashtray starts spraying. So obviously he gets down on the ground, but he does get shot in the process. We don't know if it's by the cops or by Ashtray, but they're shooting at him. He's shooting at them. He gets a couple of them down. And then the shooting stops. Ashtray's laid out on the ground. They go inside of the bathroom. They see him laid out. And then they're like, we have a suspect down. Ashtray pops up, boom, shoots the cop. And then he sees that red target go on his chest. And he starts breathing really hard. And he took his last breath because they shot him. They killed him. Fez is defeated. Fez is about to go down. Now, for the murder of Custer, possibly also Mouse, Faye is just laying on the ground in booty shorts, scared. And I want to say the booty shorts because I feel like that's all that they dressed this girl in. Like a very tiny skirt, very like small booty shorts. And they made it a point to show us that she was laying on her stomach with her ass cheeks out. So yeah, I'm going to say she was in booty shorts because that's what Sam wanted me to say. After all of this has happened, Fez is laying down on the ground and his relationship with Lexi kind of flashes before his eyes. And we see how they were connecting more and more. And it makes us feel like, what could this have been? Obviously, not too much because they have very different lifestyles. I don't think it would have worked out long term, but it would have been nice to see in the short term. Anyway, jumping back to the play, Cassie is heated. She jumps on stage. She starts ripping Lexi a new one. She starts chasing Lexi around the stage. She starts trying to like pull people out of their places, and she starts shitting on Lexi, being like, the reason why you have to write about other people's lives is because you have nothing going on. And then Maddie starts saying, well, you don't have anything going on because why did you my boyfriend? Obviously she didn't say those words. She was using the character names. And then Cassie was like, oh, you want to call me out? And Maddie's like, yeah, I actually do want to call you out. Maddie runs up on stage, starts fighting her, chases her off the stage. Kat's running behind her. BB's running behind her. And Lexi pauses the play for a bit. She feels bad for attempting to do anything like this for herself. And her assistant talks her off of the ledge. In this time, we see Rue stealing eyes with Elliot, stealing eyes with Jules, and we learn that Rue and Jules made up a few days ago. He sung her the full version of a song that he wrote. Nate has left the play. He has found his father in one of his construction sites that is very much so in phase 1 or 2, sees his whole harem. Cal has them dismissed. They start talking a little bit. Then we see police lights. Boom. Nate turned Cal in. Nate was playing chess and checkers, goddammit. Fez never shows up to the play. His seat stays open. Lexi does give him a little shout out on stage, and she's like, my friend gonna be here tonight, but like this last act is for him. The play ends phenomenally. Jules sees Rue sitting down. She goes up to her. She's like, I know you're still mad at me. I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to say that I love you. Rue gives her a kiss on the forehead, walks away. I wonder if Rue knows it. She was it. Rue was also lying, so she can't be that upset. But I just hope everybody knows all the things, you know? We jump to the bathroom. Maddie is treating her foot. She has smacked up Cassie. She's bleeding a little bit too. And Maddie just basically says, buckle your seatbelt, girl. You're in for a ride. He's all yours. Fuck you and him. And the show ends with Rue walking home. She stayed clean for the rest of the year. She said it was just honestly a lot easier to do that. That is a wrap on season 2. In a nutshell, let's jump to season 3. Season 3 trailer, it just dropped. Well, yesterday, actually, the first 5 minutes of the episode dropped, which everybody's saying giving one battle after another totally has that vibe. Like definitely Indiana Jones, like not dark and eerie, very bright, very deserted. Like she's in Mexico, she's doing some cartel work, she's trying to sell some drugs, she's trying to drive over this gate. Essentially, you guys are going to see this in a couple of hours. But from what I can tell, this season, Rue is being interrogated. She was working with the cartel, maybe. She's definitely working in drug dealing. Nate and Cassie are about to get married. Nate has taken over his father's construction business. Cassie is doing OnlyFans. Maddie is somehow going to help her with OnlyFans, even though Maddie says specifically that she doesn't do any type of sex work. Jules is like a famous wealthy painter. Cal and Jules do have a minor reconnection. We do see in the trailer. Eric Dane was feeling self-conscious at this point because his speech was starting to go, so they wrote it as if his character was drunk, and Eric really liked doing that. Fesco has not been written off the show. They do have phone conversations with him, and it is said that he has some really funny lines and that he should still be able to live on screen if on Earth he is not living with us anymore. Rest in peace, Angus Cloud. Kat is not returning to the show. Are we surprised? Gia is not returning to the show either. We've got cameos from Marshawn Lynch, Rosalia, even Trisha Paytas. As we know, Petra Collins was jacked for her whole aesthetic and creative direction from season 1 and season 2. They fired her, but continued to use her entire art form to do the show. Labyrinth was on season 1, season 2. We know his vocals, we know his strings. He is not going to be back for season 3 either. He had quite the dramatic exit saying double Euphoria and the industry, I'm out. Hans Zimmer is doing the score and the music for this show. It's a completely different feel. It's sort of the projects that the red carpet happened. Zendaya hugged Maud. She hugged Hunter. She came. She took some photos. She looked iconic, and she went home. She didn't watch the premiere, but she's also doing press for the drama. Had done what she could for Euphoria. She's got Dune and The Odyssey also coming out later this year. So Mama's tired, and we get it. And she's also like married. I don't know if she just got married or what, but like she's a busy gal. Here are my predictions for season 3. I think Rue will stay clean, but I do think that drugs will take her down in a completely new way. I think Maddie will throw a wrench in Nate and Cassie's relationship as much as she can. I think they're both pretty codependent, but I do think that I will be really disappointed if she doesn't stir things up in the potential and the capacity that I know that she can. And I kind of feel like they won't let her stir things up that much, but I know that she can. Lexi is like some producer's showrunner now. I know this is only a few years later, so I'm like, did she just not go to college? Is she still in college doing all of this? I'm not really sure. Angus Cloud's character, Fesco, is in jail. Oh, and I think that Rue is going to pimp Jules out in some way. I think Ollie is going to really try to get involved in helping Rue. I think he's going to be hurt. He's going to be in the hospital. And I'm really excited to see more about these new characters. It feels very Western. It feels very, it's something new, and I'm excited to see it. I'm definitely excited to see it. I feel like when you think of high school, that darkness, that dark cloud that was season 1 and season 2 is very much so high school. And I do think things get lighter and brighter after that, especially if you did not peak in high school. I got to get this edited and out to you guys. season 2 recap with predictions. Oh my God. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And season 3, we're going to be talking about it.